Welcome to TallyTakes, and we are here again for another podcast session. I know some people like our first broadcast, our first podcast, our first episode, and I really appreciate those who are commenting and liking. We just want to encourage those to continue to listen, comment, be a part, share, and also bring something to the discussion. All right? Tonight's episode, we'll be talking about something very interesting, very concerning as well, and something as a nation, as a people, as a country, Jamaica, we need to pay attention to it, and it is something of uttermost importance, the fabric of our society, and we have to treat with it and deal with it with urgency, all right? So that's absolutely very important. So we're looking at jackets, fraud or fear. Let's listen to all angles recently as they delve into this topic, and then we were going to come back and have a discussion about it, all right?
Thank you so much for joining us for this special edition of All Angles Investigates, and today All Angles is investigating paternity fraud. Now joining me in studio, we'll be hearing from them a little later in the program. We have Professor of Gender, Sexuality and Psychology, Professor Karen Carpenter, also with us social anthropologist Dr. Herbert Gale, and obstetrician, gynecologist and social commentator Dr. Michael Abrams. Now before we hear from our guests, so Giovanni Dennis has a special report.
She might be fooling around two men. She go play hokey pokey, find out which one is better daddy, which one is the better candidate. So it's like Russian roulette. Is it Tom, Dick, or Harry, which is the better father? So it doesn't really matter who is the biological dad, especially in this economy. Like, people can hardly afford to live.
So, all right. Before we proceed, because I am at a loss. I don't understand. What do you mean playing Russian roulette and better father? And who is the better father? A child can only have one father. Ladies and gentlemen, public service announcement, but whether economic, social, or any other reason, a child can only have one biological father. All right? So, Russian roulette, I don't know. But you know what? Let her finish. Let her finish.
Paternity fraud. A mother telling a man he fathered a child knowing it's not true. In Jamaican, it's called giving a man jacket. The word alone stirs up strong emotions.
I think it's diabolical the way women just throw kids to men who are the father. And I think they should go on the harsh punishment.
And yet, it seems widespread. 47% of Jamaicans who used the services of the company 876 DNA test in 2024 received an adverse result. In fact, the crude percentage is higher. 52% of all DNA tests at the company returned adverse results.
Now, this alone is a serious problem in the people. This is a big problem. I don't know what is going on in Jamaica, but it reflects the moral decay that we're experiencing, because people are not being honest in relationships, and men too, not being honest. And we have to go back to the place where we're honest. It's not that jackets was nothing or something that would not have been in our society. But we can't have all people doing testing and 47% is an adverse result. That don't make any sense. So what is happening? What's going on? We definitely need to bring this front and center. Because if we are going to make Jamaica be the place where we raise families, who tell us that the people of the family, they belong to the family? And we're going to raise families and do business and all these sort of things by 2030, and we're not even sure if the people of the family are they supposed to be there? Because, see, they're 47%. No, man, this is not making any sense. But you know what? We're going to, maybe let's make it go on.
Some were done by Jamaicans in the diaspora and could not be assigned a parish, and so the company adjusted the numbers down. Either way, that's an adverse result for 1 in every 2 tests.
But the number is extremely high. So we've heard higher numbers before, but I think that this is the closest to an accurate record that we probably have of the issue in Jamaica because of the scope and operation of 876 DNA tests. So we have 64 locations across the island. We're in all 14 parishes and most major townships. The people who do DNA testing in our facilities come from all over Jamaica.
Teron Duar is CEO of 876 DNA Test. The tests done were not just by fathers or presumed fathers, but also by relatives.
Paternity testing is when you test a child against a father. Relationship testing, you can test an aunt or an uncle. A category of test is called an avuncular DNA test to determine whether or not the child is the father's child. If it's the father's brother or sister, you can test the father's mother or father, which would be the child's grandparent, and then the grandparent test. You can do sibling test. So the adverse result is a catch-all phrase you use to say you expected you to be related, and you're not.
It's important to explain that this doesn't mean that 1 out of every 2 men in Jamaica is the victim of paternity fraud. It means that 1 out of every 2 tests done by this company had an adverse result. But there has been intense, widespread reaction to the new data.
Sometimes them don't really know. Which some of them know, they're wicked enough, them know. Which is some innocent, them don't know, say, is the next man's child.
I don't agree with that, you know. If it is that you are asleep with 2 men or 3 men or 4 men, I think you need to be honest with them and say, listen, I am pregnant, but I was sleeping with Ari a week ago, and then I was sleeping with Moses the other week, and really and truly, I don't want to say it's you as the father. I have to talk to Ari and I have to talk to Joseph too, and hopefully we can just get a paternity test when the child born and we can figure this thing out. Because it is better that we do something like that rather than to defraud people. Because whether you want to put it nicely, whether you want to say it is going to, they are not aware, or whether you want to put any sort of euphemism on this thing, it is fraud and it is wrong. You cannot be engaging and taking men money to mind children under the pretense that it is theirs and it's not theirs, and it's something that we have to stop. This is disgusting, and it is something that we must stop. This cannot be acceptable. People are going to say, boy, the woman that was treat her, says she's a harlot, she's a whore. I would respect a woman who come to the front and be upfront rather than one who is afraid of being labeled, because when it does come out eventually, 5 years, 10 years later, you're not going to be considered a whore anymore. It does not make any sense to me. It does not make any sense to me. And you can't just say don't know, because you were not sleeping with one person. Oftentimes, when you are in this relationship, you make the guy believe that he's the only one with whom you are sleeping. So you need to now come to the front. And if you're not sure, people will respect you eventually. Yeah, you're going to get an immediate blowback. But the consequences for the child and for the family later on is too devastating for you to try to cover up or protect whatever fragile self-esteem you may have for having gone about with these different men. So as much as I hate cheating, and I tell men it is wrong, do not cheat, it's stupid. Why would you do that? I have to also say to my ladies that this cannot be acceptable. If you are sleeping around, you're sleeping around. And it's not like you're sleeping with somebody 2 months ago, and then it's 1 month, and then no, the child coming, you're not sure. Obviously, you would have been sleeping with somebody within, the times would be near. So we have to just be honest. If you do something wrong, you do something wrong, right? But it is much worse when you lead somebody and lead them on for so many years. No, man, this is not acceptable. And people are doing paternity tests, and 47% of them, that don't make any sense whatsoever. But continue to listen.
Start to grow and start to show pictures, then they realize, so there is a problem here.
It's difficult to get people directly involved to speak.
We've been speaking so far with over a dozen people, either directly or indirectly affected by paternity fraud. No one wants to speak about this because of how difficult a subject this is to confront.
Let me tell you something. The impact of this paternity fraud is far-reaching. And so let us encourage our ladies. People make mistakes. We're not interested in labeling them as whore or whatever, because if she comes up front and says to these men with whom she would have slept, that boy, this is the situation, let us respect this lady. Yes, she's wrong and whatever, but let's respect her. And let us not bring her or disdain or try to isolate her and label her, because guess what? It is worse. It's a consequence now of somebody say, boy, I don't want to be isolated. I don't want to be pushed to the side. I don't want to let them think that I am a terrible person. And yet still, because of shame and guilt, they keep it secret. And see what is happening now? Nobody. The men are damaged. Not only financially, socially, people laugh after them family laugh after them. Economically, mentally, emotionally, no man. So, which is greater? Which of the damage is greater? You trying to protect your self-esteem in the moment to not say, boy, this is the situation. I slept with Harry, I slept with James, and I'm not even sure who is the father, But when the child born, let us get a paternity. Let's respect women who do that. But let us discourage women from leading on people. And again, some of them know. So if you know, you can't tell me you're playing Russian roulette and you're trying to find who is the better baby father. Women should be charged for fraud for doing these things. This is fraud, and we must stop it, and we must encourage people to do it.
We finally found someone who was able to share his story with us, who has been directly affected by paternity fraud. We're now on our way to St. Thomas to speak with him.
Now, here is this gentleman now who is older. Can you imagine? All the other people now who would be a little bit younger, they are afraid, they are ashamed. And the man looked like a big idiot. And sometimes, obviously, they will react violently. But let us, as a country and as a group of people, let us come together and say, women, let's encourage them to come up front. Be honest. They made a mistake. Let's not vilify them. Let them be up front and say, listen, in the period of time when I became pregnant, I was sleeping with these number of men. This number of men. And I would like all of you to be aware. You could be the father, you could be the father. When the child is born, let us get a paternity and sort it out. Let us valorize these women. But let us not encourage people to fraud. It's fraud and both fear and all sort of rubbish. Foolishness. Now, here is this article that I want to read and have a part of the discussion. Right? Here is this article. So, several local paternity testing clinics say Jamaica is not ready for mandatory DNA testing at birth, as such move could increase gender-based violence and illegal abortions. Don't tell me any garbage. Don't tell me any garbage. We as a society and as a country need to push for mandatory DNA testing at birth. That is what we need. You cannot have a situation where there are 47% of... Don't tell me any foolishness. Listen, man. Women have to be a little bit more responsible. Men, is not every hole you put your penis into. That's the part of the big problem. Once you see the hole open up, you run and go put your penis in there. And sometimes, when you deserve some of these things, but wrong is just wrong. Right? And so, we have to move towards that. And then we need to put things in place to curb that gender-based violence. But again, if people are upfront from very early, I am proposing to you, I am submitting to you that you're not going to have so much violence. People might be disappointed, people might be hurt, but you see, the violence is going to come into play when people feel as if they have been misled. So if you know that you're in this monogamous relationship and you gonna take a little piece from whomever and whomever. It is your responsibility, having taken a little piece, to say to the people with whom you had agreed to be in this exclusive relationship that you were not so exclusive. And so therefore, this is the situation that we have. And we have to do some testing. But nobody, some women, if the men ever mention the word testing, how are them gonna flare up and them go and bad and them know that it is that is not the child's the man is not the child's father. It is wrong. It is wrong, and I don't want any garbage from any academic person and any person who's very bright. It is wrong. We must encourage our women to be upfront, and we must encourage them, and we must also encourage mandatory DNA testing. All right? Let's read further. The caution is even more palpable given the experience of one operator of the paternity test clinic who shared that he has had clients who, fearing for their well-being, request factitious test results. This is just absolutely outrageous. And so when they request these false results, what do the agency do? And why are they fearing for them? Because they're fearing for them life, because they're playing Russian roulette. And the problem is when you play Russian roulette and you click the trigger, a bullet might come out. So when the bullet come out, I just saw. So don't bother playing a Russian roulette. Why can't we encourage people to be honest? Why can't we encourage people to respect other people? And then we are surprised why we have high crime. And then we go to church and we pray and say, God help crime. But I want to be dishonest now. I want to embezzle some money out of this man and give him a false child. And I go to church and say, God help us crime in Jamaica. Help crime. That don't make any sense. You are contributing to the crime by being dishonest, by being fraudulent. People make mistakes, and it is their best option to go up front and say, this is the situation, this is what happened, and guess what? I'm very sorry, but we have to get a test. And I believe that those women, these are the women that we are to now say, well, you know, respect. Yes, you do something wrong, but at least you were respectful enough to share it, and it was difficult for you, and we provide support for that type of person. But we cannot, a backpedal and a try and provide safety for this person who, for years and years, mislead people. Listen, man, are rubbish. Utter rubbish. Utter rubbish. Let's go back and hear what they are saying here at the panel.
Driving to St. Thomas typifies driving anywhere in Jamaica. Parts of the road smooth and developed, much of it bumpy and uncomfortable. Almost as uncomfortable as openly speaking about being a jacket in Jamaica. Port Morant, on the outskirts of the capital Morant Bay, is the setting for our story. It's where Errol Scott grew up. He always felt he was different from his four brothers and one sister.
I recognize I was short. Most of my brothers then were tall because mommy has 7 of us, 1 girl, 6 boys. I was the third boy for mommy, but when I discovered the first child from my father, I recognized that I was not from this stock.
He ignored the whispers he was a jacket all his life until he was 40 years old in the year 2000. By now, the man who fathered him had died. He was and still is an ordained pastor.
One Friday, I went to Morant Bay. My wife.
See how church groups and all those other type of groups can help people to go through trauma. And I can bet you 100% that it's because of his relationship with God that he's able now to come to the front and center, having gone through the hurt and disappointment, to come forward and to speak his story so that he can help other people, right? And so that is why it's so important that we have communities, people with whom we can trust. This is so important, and this is one of the reasons why I started out this podcast with that topic, because we need to cut back some of the secrecy, and we need to involve people in our life that can give us good advice using the same characteristics chart or measurements that stick that I had proposed in that video, and we use that information to identify people we can trust and get some good advice. Because sometimes probably ladies are really shaming and them, them fearful for true, and we want to admit that and accept that. But when you have people who can encourage you, probably even somebody who can go with you and discuss it with the men, this is the situation. Because trust me, when you're going to lead somebody for months and take them money and all these type of things, it's going to get worse. It is going to get worse. It is going to get worse. So your best bet is to be honest up front.
Working at Marby Parish Library then, and she wrote about a woman by the name of Ivan. I don't remember her name. And Ivan said to me, "Oh, you come into the library?" And I was calling into the Scotty, and you never answer. So something clicked in my mind. Could this be the brother you said that looks like me?
But he still had to be sure. This man just so happened to be religious as well.
He invited me, that young man, because I knew him from Norris,
The man who you found out was a brother.
Yes, man, I knew him from Norris.
I knew him from before.
Yes,
long time.
yeah, but two man look like man, me never put it say he could be my brother. So when he called me now, he said he's having a convention.
All right. In those times, a lot of jacket ran. Because people never have the access to the technology of paternity. But no, really and truly, that excuse really no hold no water. Because paternity testing very much more accessible. As mentioned before, the man in the story, he has 60 something odd branches in the country where people can go and do paternity testing. There's so many types of paternity and relative testing that can be done. If you're not sure, go get a testing. Yeah, it's a little bit expensive, but it's going to end up being way much cheaper than to mislead somebody. Even if you have an inkling of a doubt, nobody mislead people. Be upfront, and guess what? In that instance, women, you will be a superstar. You will be a superstar, because even though the man might be disappointed and upset and hurt in the moment, he might go respect you in the long run, because guess what? At least you were honest. But this thing we're going to carry on for years and years and years. No, man, and people talk foolishness about gender-based violence and all. Listen, man, just cut out the foolishness. Sometimes we put up with far too much slackness in this country, and we have bright people telling us pure foolishness. This is slackness. Let's listen.
And we was pastoring is a place in St. Thomas, right in St. Thomas here.
So this man himself is also a pastor?
Yes, he's a pastor.
The man's sister used to watch Mr. Scott preach for years.
They used to see me come and preach at churches, and they would say, "Jesus Christ, what a man look like Daddy."
Then came an invitation to speak at a convention.
When he invited me to the convention, something clicked in my spirit. Is it that he's inviting me for his wife and children to see me and to ask some thought-provoking question? After the meeting, we exchanged number, and I was saying to myself, why he's so interested in getting my number? But I didn't say anything to him. But dear Ramden Giovanni, trust me, the Holy Spirit told me, this is your brother.
Boy, I respect this man enough for telling his story. And other people, you need to start telling your story so that the issue can be put front and center. We don't need people to be going into a corner and curling up and cutting up themselves. That is not going to solve the problem. We need people to come forward. We need to be understanding of their situation, and we need to work together to help people to solve this issue. Because it doesn't make sense we rant and rage and cuss off the people, and then we are not putting things in place to provide that support so that we can reduce this incident. Because we must agree that 40%, 50% of testing showing adverse results in Jamaica, and we are leading in jacketry. Leading Nigeria. That doesn't make no sense. That makes no sense. And this is a part of the reason why we have so much zozo and so much crime. And we are too lie and deceitful and wicked. We need to stop it in our dealings with each other. We have to stop it. We always trying to take something from somebody that is not ours. We are to stop it. And we need to, this is how we're going to solve crime. We're not going to be solving crime alone by just hoping in our hearts and hoping in our head and come on TV and say, man, let's come together and be one. I hate that foolishness to say, well, come together and be one. How are we going to come together and be one when people are defrauding people and all these type of things? We need to stop it, and we really and truly need to look at how we are interacting with other people.
Yes. So when I got home, as I got in my forum, and he said, Mr. Scott, I said, wow, Mr. Coleman, he said, I have something to tell you, And I prayed to him saying, you want to tell me so, your brother? And then he started crying.
He started to cry. What was your reaction?
Well, tears well up my eyes too.
Did you know that the most dangerous prayer you can ever pray is only 3 words? If you skip this healing prayer,
He had always dismissed the idea that his biological father was not the man who raised him until now. He immediately inquired whether he was still alive.
So yes, man, that is a alive man. And my sister, them didn't want trouble, because I say, it took a long time, you have to want trouble the man. But to see, I'm say, I did stop papa. Me say, fly low. Me have to carry the family.
They planned to meet up the following day. Mr. Scott didn't sleep that Friday night.
I don't think I slept as I normally do for the entire night, because the anticipation was great. So when I got up the Saturday morning and prepared meals, the time he told me that he was coming, he came about 2 minutes after the time. And when he drove up, he said, "Oh, Mr. Coleman, I hope you cook food early morning." And so yes, man, and the way he laugh and talk, he said, "Yes, this is my stock."
Because finally, he saw his features in someone else's face. It was more of the same when he reached the house in Cheswick.
And my sisters actually saw me, and the way they laughed, the joy, the vibes, the camaraderie, you can see that they got close. Man, it's like they knew me a long time. They never even wanted to leave the yard.
And then he met his father.
I can't recall seeing him from a distance, but the first time in close proximity, and I hugged. And he didn't cry, but I cried. And when I look at him, just on my nose, the way he laugh, the way he see things, I said, this is my father.
But then, a myriad of questions swirled in his head, along with a myriad of emotions, not all pleasant.
Having hugged him and felt elated. And like that feeling of it, I start to think now, like I feel like a slight anger, like what would it like, because my brother started to tell me how we taught him to swim and catch fish together, and I was imagining what would it be like to be brought up with him.
So, why did his father stay away for 40 years?
My father told me that my mother said, leave the boy alone and don't mess up the boy because it has a long time already. Make it just slide. So my father apologized to me. I could have come and see you a long time. But my mother, can't tell you, my mother was a simple woman. My mother, like, she rules men. My mother wrong things in the relationship. My mother said, this is me. You can't tell her when I see.
Having gone through the euphoria of meeting his father, he felt anger building, but not toward any of his parents.
You know that I have in my profession met so many youngsters, quite a number of them, who would have had this similar situation like this gentleman here. And they experience the same range of emotions, from anger to disappointment and hurt, and some happiness, some relief, shame. Let me tell you something. You don't even begin to understand.
Just I'm within myself. It wasn't directed to anybody, because having spoke to my father at length, asked him why I'm just knowing you, and he explained, I believe he not coming to see me was really justified, knowing that my mother, because my mother had people stood, I just something to him for him not to come. I would say I was angry at mommy, but that I was disappointed at my mother.
So, what was the story of how his mother
And
and
the reason why I'm not angry is because I'm big, but I'm disappointed. And it's because he's mature enough to have gone through his emotions, but there are going to be some children who would be much younger, or some people who are much younger going through this. And they are not just only going to be disappointed, they're going to be very angry. And they're going to lose respect for their mother. And then tell me now, when that child goes to school, is the teacher must fix him now? Teacher must fix him now, I see.
father got together while she was in another relationship.
My father and the man with whom my mom lived, the father and mother sibling, were very good friends. But he couldn't dance. My father was a roots man, dancer, innovative, and he was amazed by profession.
I need
And apparently, my mother now is a sporter. So my mother used to go to dance. And I was told that he was the one to whom that man delegated the responsibility to take my mother. So he my mother ride go dance.
So Mr. Scott trust Mr. Coleman
Yes,
and wife
that's what I'm saying. And my wife then
was
was
his
like a
girlfriend.
girlfriend. So like
my virgin,
a virgin man, like you wrote butter, but if that never, I would not be here.
Here's how it happened.
Him say, John, you know, no woman a chiswick where you love. And my father then respond, say, you love. You know, so me know me and camera, but me have the same thing. So I keep busy, you get me? And he said, no, I'm going to get my bed, man. And I say, then if mama said to you, are you love? I want to come over from KPs, and I was like, that the response we all want. You know, so mama like a long time. So it was a big laugh for the family.
But at the time, it was no laughing matter when the man who raised Errol found out Errol was not his biological son. Following her infidelity, his mother's partner, Mr. Scott, was determined to harm the man who impregnated his spouse. But his mother made them relocate from Cheswick, where they were originally from, to Port Morant. None of the children knew what had happened.
Because having left Chiswick.
See what I'm talking about? The gentleman now want to go after. Boy, I tell you, man, it's crazy.
It's safe that my father, because I heard man say he's going to kill my father, you know, for what he did.
That's Mr. Scott.
Yeah.
You heard him say that?
No,
did you hear about it?
Yes, I heard about it.
Armed with his new information, Pastor Scott confronted his mother the following day.
When I met my brother, I went to my mother and said, Mama, live with me. My father is alive. And my mother hesitated for about a minute and I said, no, I demand that your father. And I said, Mama, I meet a brother last night at a convention. If that man is not my brother, you don't have a brother. I'm going to see the daddy tomorrow morning. And she said, oh, okay. So having told her the Friday what I would have done the Saturday, I went the Sunday morning to prepare them before I went away to have a bath. For her to ask me, did you go and see the man? But me and Mill around. And she not asking me. We went to the bathroom twice this morning and turned on the pipe like I made. And she asked them to come up back. And then she clean on and Tony, you know, see the man yesterday? I said, yes, Mama. Oh, him look like, I said, Mama, if that man and my father, and my mother broke down. And I started to cry.
Did you cry at that point?
Yes, I cried the time I hugged her. And I told her, I said, I'm begging you for your wisdom.
In fact, Errol Scott says the man who raised him never treated him any differently from his other siblings, even after he confirmed he was not his biological son.
I tell you, what is it that we have to do to arrest this problem? Really good story, and yeah, sometimes the situation is not as easy as clear cut. But I am saying, one, we definitely have to encourage our women to be upfront and honest. If you sleep with 3 or 4 men, I just saw a story go, you just be upfront and honest to all the 4 men with whom you sleep. Tell them you're not sure that you are you are the father. Let's go and get a test and we can move on. Because trust me, some people are not wise and some people are not going to take that nicely. And again, if you're going to give it to somebody who is not the father, then that is fraud. All right? Yes, there is some fear that people going to treat you or think about you differently, or fear that the person may react, your spouse or whomever. But let us not dwell on fear, because fear never really fix problems. Fear causes more problems. So let us move to an era where we can say, all right, let's be frank, be truthful, be honest. Let's deal with each other in that era and that respect. And finally, as we go, I want to put out this point, even from this article. A 2023 study conducted by researchers at Northern Caribbean University and published in the International Journal of Current Research in Education, Culture, and Society interviewed just over 1,000 men about paternity fraud. It found that 4.8%, 51 of the respondents stated that if they were victims of paternity fraud, in colloquial terms given a jacket, the name assigned to the child who are subject to paternity discrepancy, they would abuse the mother verbally and physically. All right, so we know that 4.8% of men are of the opinion that they will abuse the mother. All right? Let me tell you something. I know men, I am a man. If men know that people can make mistakes, trust me, and sometimes them vex and them get upset, and them get cross, and them whatever. But if they level with them from very early, even if them upset, they would prefer that in the long run than to be misled. Men do not like to be misled. Men do not like to be taken for an idiot. Men do not like that you try to fraud them. And that alone, even if they were going to not be an aggressive person, the fact that other people might know and then put up this child on them Facebook or wherever and them they parade with this child, and then they later found out that it's not there, the embarrassment is too great. And some men cannot deal with that. Trust me, in the early stages of the pregnancy, when it happens, when you find out, just level with the people. All right? And what we need to do is to not talk about we're not going to have no laws to have mandatory paternity. That's nonsense. What we need to do is to put things in place to encourage women when they go to the clinic for these routine checkups. They probably need to just ask them clearly up front, do you need these type of services? Do you think that you would need us to call in the father? And are you sure who the father is? If you're not sure, did you have multiple sex partners during the period of pregnancy? And if you need our assistance as a clinic or a doctor or whatever social services that we can offer, can we assist you to kind of remedy the situation from very early? I know government ought not to get in so much these private things, but guess what? We definitely have to expand that government service, because at the stage that we are now, 47%, that don't make any sense. So we definitely have to expand these services, and we definitely have to attack this problem from this angle as well. So, one, we have to encourage women to be upfront very early, whether we need to consider that type of offering that services, particularly to ladies who are, when they are going through the early stage of pregnancy. I know they have to go to the clinic, and at certain times while they are pregnant, they would need to, get that sort. I think we need to just come up front with them and ask them, because sometimes they have the gentleman there, they don't want to disappoint them, they are fearful of losing the partner, and sometimes if we have that third party who can intervene and try to communicate that, that adverse information from very early, then we would have a better chance of minimizing the violence. But trust me, I don't think we can minimize the violence when you have taken millions and millions of dollars from a man for a child that is not his, under the pretense that is his. I don't think that's going to go over well. So from very early, that's what I'm proposing. I'm also proposing that we look at how we can offer this service to the ladies while in the pregnancy. That sort of psychosocial service. And then now we must pursue mandatory DNA testing at the end of the day, so that we can reduce this incidence in our country. I mean, I better we just deal with the problem and get it and just attack it and address it. Yeah, because if we're going to play around and then now we're going to have a lot more murders and a lot more attacks. You see, at least 4.8% men are prepared to what? To abuse any woman that treat them in that way. All right. So tell me what you think. Like and subscribe, and we hope that we can address this issue in our country so that we can have a better country. Thank you very much.